Please be careful what you say. Sarah, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Jeff, Preston, ready?
Ready.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Mr Pudney. I'm the town manager for the town of Beech Mountain, and I'd like to call the unsafe building hearing to order July 28th at 2 p.m. This is a virtual meeting for the town of Beech Mountain state of emergency enacted due to the COVID-19. Meeting is being live broadcast on the town website as well as a virtual Zoom meeting. We have asked for public comment. We have two, which I'll read in just a minute. I'd like to introduce the town staff and then ask our visitors to introduce themselves. We have Town Inspector Jeff Fish, who will be testifying today on behalf of the Building Department. We have our Planning and Zoning Director, Preston Yates. We have our Town Clerk, Cameron Mercer. And, of course, Town Manager, Bob Pudney. Riley Hatch is in the back, who's our AD Tech guy. The hearing today is per North Carolina Statute 160A-426, it's an unsafe building condemnation, and it's a required hearing where the building owner, a representative, has a chance to hear the inspector discuss what he has found, and we'll take any information, testimony, comment from the owners. The purpose of the meeting is at the end, the inspector of the town will make a determination to either issue a notice of condemnation or not, based on the information that's presented here today. So I have two public comments. Because of the virtual meetings, we take public comments online. These were submitted before the deadline of 5 p.m. on Monday, and I'll read them in their entirety. This is from Anna Davidson, an owner in HBV F Building. Comment. I'm a homeowner in Holiday Beech Villas F Building and wanted to express my support and concern for rapid correction of the structural issues impacting our building. Also, as we have critical need to fix the issues on our buildings. There's a note that other content was removed per Ms. Davidson's permission given below. It goes on to state, residents are interested in understanding the time frame for fixing the decks in the HBV F building that have structural issues. When can we rent again? When can we schedule other work? Our POA has informed us that this is dependent upon guidance from the town based on the hearing and also on approval of the plan by the town. Can someone please speak to the normal time frame for this process and if there will be any expediting of approval due to the criticality of the issue? Thank you, Anna Davis. The next public comment we received, I'll read in its entirety. My name is Walt. I've been an owner at Holiday Beech Villas for 4 years. We have a new property manager, and he and our board of directors are working diligently and wisely to refurbish our decks and other exterior projects, utilizing a recent $600,000 special assessment. That completes the public comments that we've received. And before I go to Jeff Fish, our inspector, I wanted to just make sure that everyone understood what the purpose of the meeting is. Under 160A-426A, we have to find a determination that there's an unsafe situation in this structure. It's a residential structure. By definition, it meets the definition of a dwelling. We're holding the hearing today to give you the opportunity to tell us any defense you have, disagree with us, if you brought some experts that you want to tell us we're in error. And again, we want to end this meeting with a decision on whether we're going to order corrective action to be taken, or from your information you provide us that we need to take some other action. Whatever we do today can be appealed. It can be appealed to the town council and ultimately to the Superior Court. You got a 10-day window to appeal anything we do after we issue a finding of fact, so please be aware of that. All right. Mr. Fish, would you present on the town's behalf the violations that you have seen at the building and the building code.
Yes, thank you, Bob. I will be brief. What I observed on a visit to the site, there were some deck supports that were missing, loose, non-vertical, and some not in contact with footers. On the deck surface, there were non-horizontal surfaces and some deflection. Much of the wood material had deteriorated, mostly as just a function of time. So, if any building or part is found to be in substandard condition, it's important that I notice and report and ultimately find a way to help fix the problem. That's about all I have to say.
So the action that the town is requesting is a partial condemnation of building F. This would be the exterior rear decks on all floors. We would post the building externally and bar any use of those decks. We do not intend at this time to condemn the building or to put any other restrictions on occupancy of the building. I understand Mr. Fish, the front decks, the access, the emergency egress decks are sufficient.
At this time, yes.
Okay. Preston, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
That is the town's intention. Mr. DeSanti, would you like to respond on behalf of the building owner?
Hi, Mr. Martha, will please,
Okay, call.
It would simply be, as Mr. said, we self-reported this issue on July 16th when we became aware of the collapse of the one support. I appreciate your staff for pulling them out of the meeting because we felt this needed to be did it to be quick to respond and meet us on site. Yes. The board of directors has a plan in place. We've shared those plans with Mr. Fish. We were aware of the needed repairs both front and back on this building. Are close to closing the financing to proceed with that plan. And otherwise, we have just been asking for your assistance, and that's what we're getting here today. And that's, what we want to know is, we want to do what is best as quickly as possible. To the two public comments, to Ms. Davidson, as to a time frame, that is up to the contractors and all. We intend to be as aggressive as possible. Perhaps be able to have the rear deck rebuilt prior to winter. If we're able to move quickly with approval of the plan submitted, the requisite tweaks, give the guys in the front deck to additional load capacity, and the completion of our financing. As to Mr. Howard's public comment, it would just be a correction as to the amount of the public assessment, which is actually $433, 260 cents, which is specifically put in place on the homeowners for this project, for the F Building project. So, we were weeks away from beginning this. We appreciate the town's quick response and the communication since then, and look forward to following whatever guidance you issue here today. If there are no other questions from me, thank you for your time.
And my presence here was asked by the association to exacerbate the seriousness that the association perceives this problem. And it's also to act afterward, which I will work with Mr. Marquardt, giving notice to the occupants and owners of that building of the seriousness of it, the effect of what the partial condemnation does, to assure that the decks are essentially closed to any use by any of the occupants other than the possible emergency situation, for that would be the only exception I would presume to make. And as Mr. Marquardt said, we don't dispute the seriousness of this issue. I think we support the partial condemnation of it and the repair work, which was already undertaken through a proposal that the association achieved. And I'm here with Mr. Marquardt to support the decision of the town and proceed with the rectifying of the problem as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Well, certainly the town appreciates the fact that this is non-controversial, even though we've had to hold a public hearing, and it seems like we're all pulling in the same direction, which is, we appreciate that. The town will work diligently with you and your contractors to expedite this, assuming that gets to us as soon as possible, some plans for permitting purposes. The timing we need to speak about, just briefly, the statute requires action to be taken within a 60-day time frame. And what the town would like to interpret that to mean is that you will have a detailed plan in place, acceptable to the town within that 60-day period, moving forward. We don't expect you to have the work completed in 60 days. The action the town is taking today by partially condemning the building, specifically the rear decks, you will be responsible for keeping people from using those decks. That mitigates the danger, the immediate danger. If you could have a plan to us within 60 days, that would meet the intent, we believe, of the state law. And then we'll go through the process of getting permits for you as quickly as possible and getting your inspections done as quickly as possible so that this project can be brought to fruition. Carl?
Yeah, I had one question on that front, because following our initial meeting, Mr. Fish advised that post notices front and back and yellow caution tape across those entrances. Unfortunately, we had folks that removed the tape, which is why my next request was, what next steps, how permanent a barrier can we make it? So we're looking for some guidance, whether it's a fire code or a building code, to how we can further prevent folks from doing that with a more permanent structure if required, or if it's simply, we're going to have to count on a little good sense and good judgment from them with just the posted notice, because we were prepared in the pre-discussions to throw a wood barrier, but then it became, is that sufficient? Is that going to prevent them in an emergency from getting out? Which is why I, again, asked for what can we do? And with this partial condemnation, we're going to also ask, what ability do we have to physically bar those entrances to help prevent violation of this order, which is in the best interest of all of the owners and residents of that building, without making it unsafe by fully boarding them up. Right. Because unfortunately with the interior buildings, that's really the only air. So our hope was to allow them to be able to open the slider with the screen, just don't go on the deck to get some air moving through it. If that's not going to be sufficient, what would be, or I guess we'll be asking, what is the next step that we can do to remain in compliance with this order? And unfortunately, for lack of a better word, force compliance from those that are unwilling to do so simply by a notice for your safety and by order of the town, do not access the deck. So, that may be a question for another day, but again, that is a question that I asked, I believe, help move this forward. It remains the question we're going to have as we try to enforce the order from today.
Okay, well, please accept what I'm about to say in good faith. The town does not wish to incur any additional liability for fashioning a method of barring people from accessing the deck. the town meets its statutory requirements by having this hearing, finding of fact, and posting the exterior of the building that it is partially condemned. And we will list that the decks cannot be accessed. In that notice, it will indicate that it's a Class 1 misdemeanor to violate the notice. That's the limit of the liability that I'm willing to take on behalf of the town. We certainly would work with you if you wanted to put a proposal together for us to review. We would apply the appropriate code so that you didn't violate a fire code or make it more unsafe.
Thank you.
But hopefully, you're not asking the town to come up with a way to bar access to the deck. That's really the property owner's responsibility.
No, I mean, and that's why we ran up against, we were just asking for additional guidance, and hopefully the official notice will, and this hearing will make those residents and owners understand how the seriousness of the issue and the consequences of violation, whether it be fine or further action by the town to remove the ability to remain out. So hopefully that will be sufficient. Whether it's a question for today or not, as how it would be, I guess, myself and my maintenance. There are owners that have items on the deck that would like the ability to remove them. Of course, will have to be removed prior to the demolition, which we hope to move forward quickly upon approval of the plan. If that's something that, I guess, a waiver of one day or set up to help these, to do it for them, to get their stuff off of that deck without violating whatever order is going to be issued today.
Right. I understand the request, and hopefully you understand that
Excuse me, I need to say something real quick.
once we, would you mute them for me, Ryder? Once we post the building, there can't be a variance. So, what I would say is that if you have some things that need to be removed, maybe have your maintenance people remove them on behalf of the owners or something. But once we post the building, it's either unsafe or it's not. It's not partially unsafe. So when we post the building, contractors would be permitted to access the deck, obviously. Maintenance people, owners would be, property owners, not the unit owners, would be able to access it for construction purposes and demolition. But the general public cannot. And that's what the order says, that's what it means, and I can't really do it partially.
Understood. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you, sir.
Let me ask your side, is there anything else you'd like to add? Questions you have?
I don't believe so. As you stated, this on our radar, plan in place moving forward. It's unfortunate. We appreciate all of the assistance and guidance that we've received to this point in response to, for lack of a better word, a cry for help. Because we were most concerned about it to begin with. Seeing the support posts on the ground scared us to the point that we need help, and this is why we've reached out, and town has been extremely responsive and helpful in that, and continues to be, and we very much appreciate it.
Mr. Fish, Mr. Yates, anything to add?
I'd like to thank you again for bringing this up. Your self-reporting is much appreciated, and I feel like we have a common goal and common purpose to work together to get this completed. So I look forward to that with you. I will do all I can to help get the permits issued as needed and all the inspections as work progresses. So I want to thank you, and we'll get through this. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your, how quickly you responded and how available you've been as we try to deal with this.
Does anybody else need to add anything before I close the public hearing? Hearing none, I'd like to close the public hearing and ask Mr. Fish to render a finding of fact.
When you say finding of fact, what is it you're asking for?
You've heard, testimony
Okay.
on both sides, and what is your determination?
Given what we've seen and what I've heard today, I plan to issue an order to repair that will be posted on the front of your building promptly, hopefully this afternoon. And that will be a document that, as we've said, closes parts of your building. And from that point, we'll go as we've established here onto the sequence of permitting, repair, inspections, and closure of the issue. But that should happen this afternoon.
Okay, Madam Clerk, that will adjourn the meeting at this point, and the town will prepare a condemnation notice. We'll have it posted on the exterior of the building in a conspicuous spot this afternoon. I want to thank everybody for coming here today. I appreciate it very much. We get through this as quickly as possible. So thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Riley, if you would end the Zoom meeting.